Get the camera from there.
All right, council, we're about to get started. It looks like all the council members are here. We are live on Facebook and this meeting is being recorded. I'm going to give it another minute or so for everyone to get settled. Please mute your microphones before we get started. Turn them on when you're ready to talk, and when you're finished talking, please turn them off. Mr. Tamble, are you ready? Jennifer, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Robert, are you ready? I'm just waiting to hear from Robert.
I'm back. The internet at the city just dropped me. So
You want me to go ahead and get started, or do you need to get something situated?
no, I'm good. Jennifer, are you good with the live feed on YouTube?
I think so. I think we're live.
Okay, go ahead, Scotty.
Notice is hereby given pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act, Vernon Annotated Civil Statutes, Article 6252-17, that the city of Smithfield will conduct a council meeting and public hearing on August 10th, 2020 at 6 p.m. This meeting will be closed to in-person attendance by the public. The temporary suspension of the Open Meetings Act to allow telephone and video conference public meetings has been granted by Governor Greg Abbott. These actions are being taken to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 by avoiding meetings that bring people into a group setting in accordance with section 418.016. If you have comments regarding an agenda item, please email jdlynch@ci.smithfield.texas.us or call 512-237-3282, extension 2106. All comments must be received by 5 p.m. on August 10th to be heard at the 6 p.m. meeting. Please follow us on our YouTube page. You can also go to the city website and click the link on the news and announcements homepage to access our YouTube page. We'll go live at 6 o'clock so that you can view the live conference call. The meeting will be recorded and uploaded to the city website following the conclusion of the meeting. This time I will call the meeting to order, and I will invite City Manager Tamble to please lead us in the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. For all those who aren't speaking, if you would please mute your device, it'll stop any feedback that might occur. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to live in Smithfield, Texas, and for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon our community. We ask that you watch over and protect our citizens, keep them safe, comfort those that are hurting, heal those that are sick. Heavenly Father, we ask that you watch over all the men and women who are on the front lines responding to the coronavirus, the first responders, the paramedics, the police officers, doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. Finally, Lord, we ask that you help guide the council to the best of their ability, that they may make the decisions that are in the best interest of the community. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Right, thank you, Mr. Tamble. At this time, do we have any recognitions, awards, proclamations, announcements, or presentations?
No.
All right, we'll move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes from July 13th, 2020 council meeting and public hearing. Council, you've had a copy of those meetings in your meeting minutes session. If you have no further deletions or corrections or additions, I will entertain a motion on the minutes.
Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of the July 13th, 2020 council meeting and public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes from the July 13th, 2020 council meeting and public hearing. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 I didn't hear, I think I got Joanna and Sharon.
Aye.
I'm moving everybody's video so I can see the council members all on one screen. So I don't have to keep clicking all over the place. All right, motion has been made and seconded and voted on. It is approved. The minutes are approved as presented. This time we'll hear recommendations from planning and zoning. It will be from the chairman of the P&Z Commission, Mr. Brian Rewe, and he will present us with how that went.
Hey, good afternoon. We have two items, one from the July 7th meeting, one from the August 3rd. The first is a request for a zone change from single family SF2 for the entire block of Bunty Addition, Block 20, lots 1 through 8. It's being requested by Acting Agent Matt Lara and Tracia Ford for Fredonia Adams at 300 Bunty Street. This is a request to change from SF2 to mixed residential in order to move some HUD-approved manufactured housing onto this tract. The zoning requirements for this are 2 contiguous city blocks sharing a common street, and that all property owners within the area have make the request for the zoning change. Both of those conditions were met. There was no public comments. The vote was 3-0 to recommend these zoning changes. Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, I'll move on to the second item. This is from the August 3rd Planning and Zoning Commission. It's a request for approval of preliminary plat that includes multiple variances and zone changes for lots 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The main addition in the city of Smithfield. If you have in your packet, you can see the list of zoning changes. Excuse me, the zone change from C3 to SF1 for the subdivision and multiple variance requests. The variance requests all had to do with maximizing being able to build slightly larger homes on the lots. The request includes a variance for the right-of-way from 60 feet to 52 feet, but it would include an 8-foot public utility easement in lieu of the 60-foot right-of-way. So effectively, it would provide the same benefits of a 60-foot right-of-way. Second request was a 20-foot front building setback rather than the 25-foot setback. Side setbacks from 7.5 feet to 5 feet, and from 10 feet for 2-story structures on lots 1 and 3. Also a request to allow construction of sidewalks after the home has been constructed rather than initially when public infrastructure, streets, etc. were put in. That being to avoid damage or destruction to the sidewalks when large trucks, etc. were moved in to build the structures. It'd be required for the sidewalks to be constructed after completion of construction of the home. And this proposed plat ends in a cul-de-sac, and so there's a request to reduce the 60-foot radius to a 48-foot radius, again to allow for construction of larger homes on the footprint. The owner of the property pointed out that the buildable that the proposed radius reduction still meets the 2012 International Fire Code for fire acts turnaround at a dead end. There were no public comments. The commissioners voted 3-0 to recommend approval of the variance request. I note that in the packet that you should have before you, after our meeting, there was an email that was sent in objecting to the proposed variances. It's from representatives for Patsy and James Welch. They are pointing out, at least in their view, that this proposed subdivision would be sharing the retention pond that was constructed behind the Welch property. And they consider that to be perhaps detrimental to their property values. Are there any questions?
I don't think there's any questions, but there are people that need to mute their microphones. There's some feedback going on. Council, do you have any questions? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll move into the public hearing and I'll call that to order. We're going to hear the citizens' comments in this public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up under A?
No, we do not have anybody signed up under A.
Do we have anyone signed up under B?
I have 2 people signed up under B, Mitchell Jameson and John Wallace. And I just want to state that I will be keeping a timer for 3 minutes for each speaker. And I will mute you after your 3 minutes is done.
Okay, at this time, I would like to invite Mr. Jameson to go ahead and speak for 3 minutes, and the timer will start when you do.
Hey, I'm here. This is Mitchell Jameson. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we hear you.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to present a summary of our position. I think John Wallace is going to follow me. Both of us are speaking on behalf of, last count, about 25 residents and interested parties about rejecting this proposal. And I want to repeat, we want you to reject this proposal. If you're not sure of your vote, then reject it. I'm pretty sure the developer will come back later. Before approving anything, we ask that an independent engineering analysis be completed. That letter, that email that you got, it's not about concerns of the families for the property valuation. It's about protecting us in the future. I wasn't aware of that previous zone change, but it appears to me that that's for variances that are going to allow even more concrete and roof structures to be built. The theme of our position is own your own water. That means if you're doing something to divert water from your development, then you need to own your own water or build your own detention pond. Do not do so at risk of liability to the city or take advantage of the existing infrastructure. Own your own water. The basic rationale of our opposition is founded on 8 assumptions as follows, and a couple of questions. Number 1, the city of Smithfield was effectively built in a bowl. 2, all water flows to the lowest point. 3, the current detention pond is the lowest point in the area and around the pond. 4, the detention pond is the city's sump pump. The current residents living in the detention pond area have already experienced major flooding events, and I can personally attest to that, responding to desperate calls for help during the Memorial Day flood, when my wife and I waded over to help my parents and cousin as the water rose and began coming in the houses. We didn't know when it was going to stop. But the worst thing was hearing people down the street as they screamed for help. They were totally helpless, and the fear still resides in their hearts as they wait for the next event to see if the detention pond's actually going to do what it was designed to do. Number 6, the people living in the 7th Street area and around the detention pond were promised by city representatives that the pond would not be used for any other purposes than those proposed at the time. We believe the government and entities tend to take existing agreements and public assets and bend them to meet the needs of special interest and business enterprises. Allowing the use of the current detention pond to facilitate any business development is an example of amending an existing commitment and agreement for uses other than originally intended. 7, specifically after much deliberation and negotiation, an easement was granted to the city by the Welch and Ralph families so that the water could be drained from 7th Street between our two properties and go directly to the detention pond. The easement was granted based on language that stated the easement could be used for.
Time's up. That's the 3 minutes.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we'll move to Mr. John Wallace. You do have 3 minutes, and we'll start whenever you.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm just going to read what we have, what we have done, and then we'll go from there. Some of these points have already been addressed, but I'm going to readdress them. When voicing our discontent with the current drainage issues, we, the residents of 7th Street, have been asked numerous times by city employees and representatives, why did we build in a floodplain? Well, of course, the answer to that is we didn't, but it appears we are rapidly getting there. We have been told that, again, Smithfield has been built in a bowl. Look at the topographical map of the area for proof. We understand that's true. Again, we can point to numerous changes to the city infrastructure, zoning, and development over the years, which exacerbates that argument, if not point direct to a correlation of the most recent years in flooding, where 7th Street has become rampant on 7th, until the addition of the detention pond. Further development of 7th Street will only increase our odds of flooding. We already know that we've been built in a bowl. So why would we do more of the same thing and develop the bottom of the bowl? That's basically the definition of insanity. In this particular case, I think it leans more toward textbook negligence. In my opinion, no development should be allowed on that area of land, but I realize that's not a reasonable request. So therefore, we are pretty much need to discuss the ramifications of it to the existing development around and the unintended consequences of said development. There are always unintended consequences in land development such as this. And of course, I'm referring to an impact study, which I understand has not been commissioned yet, and it's not there yet. It's going to be determining basic on this vote of the preliminary, and that won't be done until the final plot is approved. So I'm very interested to see the impact study. Again, to reiterate, independent calculations other than BEFCO. I've worked with BEFCO over the years. I'm in construction. Not that I do not trust them, but I have, of course, to say I want independent study to verify their calcs. And I mean, just simple, that's that. Of course, the final elevation and everything based on the final approval of the plat, how much y'all gonna raise the land, what is the finished elevation of the land versus the final floor elevations of the slabs and things going in. All that's going to push stuff our direction. I understand that there's a proposal of 97% capacity of a detention pond built on that land, and all we're doing is looking at a 3% overflow into the existing city pond. Again, would like to see the impact study before I say, hey, no, we can't do that. I mean, I don't want to be unreasonable, but at the same token, we've got to be fair to the existing, and that's a key word, existing. You can't ruin existing structures by new structures.
That's 3 minutes. Time's up.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wallace. Do we have anyone else signed up?
No, that was it.
This time I will adjourn the public hearing and move back into the open meeting for council discussion and action. First, we'll take number A, the zone change from single family 2 to mixed residential for the entire block of Bunny Addition, block 20, lots 1 through 8, that is being requested by acting agent Matt Lara and Tricia Ford for owner Fredonia Adams, care of Terry Smith at 300 Bunny Street. So we've heard the presentation from Chairman Rewe. It went through unanimously. There was no one signed up to speak for or against it. I know that the Laras are available here if we have any questions for them. So council, I'll turn it over to you to see if you have any questions or discussion or would like to make a motion. All right, hearing no questions or discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve a zone change from single-family SF2 to mixed residential MR for the entire block of Bunty Addition, Block 20, lots 1 through 8. This is being requested by Acting Agent Matt Laura and Tracy Ford for owner Fredona Adams, care of Terry Smith at 300 Bunt Street.
I second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve a zone change from single family 2 to mixed residential for the entire block of Bunny Edition, block 20, lots 1 through 8, to 300 Bunny Street. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Next, we'll move to discussion and action on item 9B, a preliminary plat that includes variances and zone changes for A46 Lomas L acres 2.505, owner 230 Properties LLC, McMahon Edition, lot 7, 0.1602 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 6, 0.1610 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 5, 0.1602 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 4, 0.165645 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 3, 0.1561 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 2, 0.3935, owner George H. McMahon. We've heard from the citizens in the public hearing. We've also heard from Mr. Brian Reevy, the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission. At this time, I want to give an opportunity for Mr. McMahon or Mr. Sanders with BEFCO to share anything that they might like to, or the council to ask any questions. Or Robert, you're welcome to jump in too.
Yeah, sure. I saw Mr. McMahon was on the call. I'm not sure if Tim Sanders is on the call, but he's trying. I know that for a fact. Regarding the concerns for 7th, yeah, folks, I understand your concern, but you have to realize that, I've been with this through this with y'all all along. That one right there, Miss Sanders, is someone that I would not ever try to jeopardize what's already been built to accommodate future development. And right now, the drainage study preliminary drainage analysis is being conducted by BEFCO. And John, to your point regarding a third-party independent review, we've added a process in our development step for commercial and/or residential subdivisions like this that requires a third-party independent review from an engineering firm to validate whatever BEFCO's analysis determines. And I will reiterate, I will not let anyone adversely impact 7th Street drainage by adding an additional development. By law, you can't. Post-development flow has to be equal to or better than the pre-development flow. And that's what they're working toward. Now, the plat has been submitted. There's a lot of variances that the council has to consider. And Mr. McMahon or Tim, do you want to add any comments at this point?
Robert, I would be glad to. This is George Knightley, and I would be glad to make a few comments. One, for those of y'all that don't know me, if you're looking at that proposal, it's showing Lubbock, Texas. So I'm sure you're thinking I'm some out of town big city developer trying to swoop in and make a profit, and that's not the case at all. I'm a local hometown boy. I went to the old Central School close to downtown. I went to Sam Houston Junior High, and I graduated from the old Red Brick High School back in 1962, and moved off to Lubbock to go to Texas Tech. And I like it out here. Lubbock's a great town, and I've done well, and I'm quite happy out here. But I do still own my family's farm at Old Lake Road and Woodgers Lane, plus quite a bit of other land that I bought going down Old Lake Road. And I've got quite a bit of property south of Smithfield now. And when I get a chance, I like to come down there and visit. It's our adopted, well, it's my hometown, and Linda's even warming up to it after all these years. So I'm trying to do a favor for the city. I keep hearing how we need more lots and more houses, and teachers can't find a place to live, and people that work in Smithfield can't find a place to live. And I tried to do a subdivision here about 5 years ago, and we ran into these same drainage problems. And while some of y'all may be against doing this, I did end up selling the city the land for that retention pond at a really sweetheart deal, save Mr. Campbell and the city a bunch of money, and didn't have to condemn 2 or 3 houses on 7th Street and pay market rates for them in order to do this retention pond. So that doesn't mean I own it. I sold y'all the land, y'all's, but I'm like Mr. Campbell. I do not want to do anything that would jeopardize 7th. I remember how badly those houses flooded, and I had that same question. How was it allowed that those houses got built in a flood zone? That would have never been allowed under current building regulations, but it was back then, and so regrettable. But this development, one, it slopes to the south away from 7th Street, and it would actually, Tim can correct me, but I think it's going to end up carrying water south to Loop 230 away from 7th. And our plan is to give up one of the lots, lot number 4, and it would be, we would dig out enough land right there, enough dirt to allow for all the water that this subdivision will generate, and it would drain into the retention pond. The other option is to give up.
Hey, George, I didn't mean to interrupt, but your development, it currently drains, except for a little portion close to Loop 230, it all drains towards the pond today, just for clarification.
Okay, well, I was misunderstanding that, but I'm doing my surveying with Google Earth, looking at elevations, so I don't have the luxury of y'all's good equipment and everything. But at any rate, Tim's plan is that we would enlarge the existing drainage pond by enough to accommodate the water that we're going to generate, and from a development and practical standpoint, that makes the most sense to me, because I would have to give up 2 lots to do it all on site, plus another pipe that would have to go into the drainage pond. So it's really kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other from that perspective. But let me kind of go over the variances. The zone, we've already got some of this approved. Y'all approved some of it for me several months back, and the hang up was that we needed to get the Moitz property included, because I couldn't really build that street on my 5 lots without cul-de-sac in it. I would have lost 1 or 2 lots doing that. So I've been representing the Moitz, and I'm helping them to develop their property. And those lots to the north are theirs. We're just going to do it all as one project. And so my zoning and my little 5 lots have already been approved, but I can't do them the way it's configured. It just wouldn't work. I need to extend it all the way up into their property. And as Chairman Mr. Brown said, I'm asking for a 52-foot right of way instead of 60. Y'all's current zoning code is and subdivision regs are based on 60 foot with bar ditch drainage. And I did one subdivision years ago with bar ditches, and I'm not going to do that again. So we want to do a paved concrete street with concrete curbs and do a 31-foot wide street in a 52-foot right of way. But then we're going to add another 8-foot utility easement in the front to run our water and sewer lines and electric and gas and so forth. So that would be an additional 8 feet away from the curb, and there'll be quite a bit of room from the curb back to the actual property line. Then there'll be the 8-foot easement, which is the reason for the reduced 20-foot front setbacks instead of 25. Those homes are already going to sit quite a ways back. So by cutting it down to 20, we can create a bigger backyard. It's not necessarily to make a bigger house, but more of a bigger backyard so that kids will have a little bit more room to play. The same with the 5-foot side yard setbacks. That does let us put a little bit bigger house on it and puts the houses a little closer together, but it's not objectionable. And if y'all have got the packet that I submitted for the zone case, there's some pictures from one of my subdivisions and one that my friends did showing some 60-foot lots, another one showing some 55-foot lots. These would be 58 feet wide, so they're plenty wide enough. And you can see that with the 5-foot setbacks, there's still adequate room between the houses. Also, requesting a waiver on the sidewalks, and as your commissioner, your chairman pointed out, Mr. Rowe, it would, if we put the sidewalks in now, all of them will get busted out. You know, when Smithfield was built originally, most of those older homes are pier and beam. One truck delivered all the lumber, and it wasn't a very big truck because it brought it in stages. And the floors were built, everything was built by lumber on site. Well, buildings changed a lot since those days. You know, big backhoes come across the property line to dig out all the footings and put in all the plumbing. Big concrete trucks come to pour the foundations. Big trucks come to deliver the sheetrock, the brick, the siding, the roofing, everything. If sidewalks are put in conjunction with the street, they would be destroyed by the time the house was built. In Lubbock, we do the sidewalks afterwards. That's worked very well. One of the questions from the zoning commission was, could there be some gaps where there wasn't a sidewalk until a lot sold? Yes, that's a possibility, probability. But hopefully the lots would all sell in a year or two and get built out, and that would take care of that problem. I could not guarantee how quickly that will sell, however. And the other thing, that 48-foot radius up there, as Tim or as Mr. Root pointed out, that just conforms to international fire code. So a truck can still get in there and turn around. And I guess that's everything I wanted to say. I would be more than happy to answer any questions. So.
I just want to make sure I understand, because I paid a lot of attention to everything that was sent to us. And Jennifer, that picture that you just had up, I don't remember seeing that somewhere. So I don't know if I missed an email or something, but
That was Robert sharing his screen, and that was his screen.
oh, okay. Okay. So, well, either way, I don't remember that. And you mentioned something, Mr. McMahon, about taking away the fourth plot and adding into the retention pond. Is that correct? Is that what that little V was in there?
Yes, ma'am. I can't point it out, but
yeah,
if that plat's blown up where you can see it, that lot number 4, you know, there's the 3 lots to the north that face
right
back to the south, and then there's lot 4 that faces to the east. That's really not going to be a lot. That would be where we would excavate enough dirt to be equivalent of, we would be removing enough dirt to allow for the water that we're going to generate by having paved streets and yards and concrete foundations.
And Tim, the preliminary is saying that everything is going in that direction, correct? The water flow? Obviously preliminary, we don't have the exact.
Yes, yeah. Based on the survey data that we have, there's a small portion in front of Bobby Barnett's house, old house, that drains towards Loop 230, but nearly all of it currently drains to the detention pond today, other than that small part near Bobby Barnett's house.
And how much extra would that lot 4 give? Do we know yet or not yet?
What the intention, and again, we haven't done final design yet. We just done some real, preliminary numbers and so forth. But basically, where lot 4 is, the plan would be to expand the detention pond into that lot 4. The rough volume that it would be adding is roughly 1.2 acre feet. And what that 1.2 acre feet would be is the difference in volume for the 100-year event between pre and post development.
Okay. And do you guys know anything, or Robert, do we know anything yet about if we were to say that they had to have their own pond, how large that would be yet? like how large that would be, so I can know the difference of the 1.2 compared to what it would be if they had their own?
Based on just,
asked. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead, Tim.
I would also
Okay.
hear about you building detention.
Yeah, you'd probably end up losing at least 2 lots and so forth if it was to be completely on the 5.6 acres.
But do we know how big it would have to be? So I can like know the number that it would have to be compared to the 1.2? Does that make sense? Am I asking the wrong question?
The volume would be the same no matter where it's at. It would be the 1.2 acre feet of volume. Like I said, the intention would be to expand it onto lot 4, basically make the pond bigger to account for that detention volume.
And Cassie, if we put it up on lots 2 and 3, and it has to be its own self-contained pond, we have to excavate the same amount of dirt.
So the 1.2 is going to be the number.
Yeah, it's the same 1.2 acre feet, but we would have to excavate. I would end up having to give up 2 lots. We couldn't get the slope if we use just 1 lot. We would not be able to get the slope that's required and be able to go deep enough. We would have to go over and use 2 lots to do it. And I say that's the way I understand it. Tim can correct me again if I'm mistaken. But if we do it on lot 4 and drain it directly into the existing pond, we're basically enlarging the existing retention pond by the same amount that we need to use to allow for this development's drainage. It becomes a zero effect. We're adding as much as what we'd be putting into it. And it's much simpler from a design and development and construction standpoint.
Well, I agree that we need to bring numbers forward for you to have your own detention pond. I am not for you draining into the existing detention pond. I understand Bevco is your engineer, but as far as I'm concerned, the people on above where the studies have been done, the existing structure we have there, I'm not for you using that as your drainage. I feel you need to build your own drainage pond, detention pond.
Well, we would be building our own. It would just combine in with the one that's there.
Mr. McMahon or Tim or Robert, let's just imagine for a minute that your development was across the street on the other side of 7th Street and you weren't up against the detention pond. If you did build your own detention pond like you're doing now, you would have to put the water into our drainage system anyway. And the water would eventually make it into the same ditches and detention pond anyway that you're building into, right? You just happen to be right up against the detention pond.
That is correct.
I mean, anywhere in that 250 acres that we built the detention pond for, that drains into the detention pond. So anybody that builds a house anywhere in that acreage is going into that detention pond. You just happen to be right next to it. So you have a unique situation to where you could build your own and just make the one that we have a little bit bigger, but it doesn't have any more net effect on any other house that would be building in that 250 acres the detention pond was built for, correct?
That is correct.
When you're saying this, I think I'm slowly understanding compared to what I was reading, and I guess I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, Robert or somebody, but can we ask Mr. Wallace or I'm so sorry, who was speaking before? Was it Mr. Jameson maybe? Yeah. Do they understand what he just said, and does that make any difference in the fact that they are building their own detention pond? It just happens to be going into the, like, backing up in what Scott just said. Does that make does that make them feel any better? Can we ask that question to them? Can they talk again? I don't know.
Certainly, you can ask the question and they can talk again. I just don't know how to do it technically. Jennifer? Let
They
them
just
speak.
need to unmute themselves, and if they do want to answer, they can, but don't.
All right, guys, this is John Wallace. Yes, I understand exactly what McMahon is saying. That's the best that we can hope for in all actuality, is to be able to retain the water enough on his land so that when it does flow into the existing city pond, that it doesn't do at such a fast rate that it backs up into 7th Street. I'm probably going to be shot by all my neighbors when I say this, but I understand that the best we can hope for is exactly that. He has his own, what we in the industry would call retention pond and not a detention pond, where it retains the water enough to slow down the flow so that when he tanks all that from pervious cover to impervious cover, and we're losing the absorption rate and the slow flow into that pond that we currently are existing anyway. The land slopes that direction anyway. We're getting drainage in that pond right now. I went out there and looked at the topo myself. I just don't want it going from pervious to impervious, and now we have just a massive flood. You've got to be able to retain the water and slow down the flow. That's the main thing. Same thing on Adams development. What we're doing here is going to have to do the same thing on the next phase that George is helping Moit with. You're going to have 2 ponds here, not 1. Okay, unless George builds a pond big enough to handle both developments to flow back. But either way, like Robert said, 0 net effect is what we're looking for. However, it has to be determined. That's the best we can ask for.
This is Mitchell Jameson. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My question right now is just, I don't understand the numbers, and thank you, John, for all that. When I look at this proposed plat, I don't understand how 1 lot can create the same amount of retention, because this is now retaining instead of detaining, that it took how many acres to build the detention pond?
But because he doesn't have to stop all of the water that's draining on that land. There was water already on that land that was draining into the detention pond. He only has to account for the net effect of putting the houses and roads on there. And the 1 lot is going to do that.
That 1 lot's going to take care of all the concrete, asphalt, and roofs that are being built, 14 lots on 2 acres?
Yes.
That has yet to be determined.
I need somebody to verify that.
Right.
Yeah, we need to see the calculations.
Exactly. And that's another thing I want to mention while we're here. This is a preliminary plat and variance change. Mr. Campbell said earlier that nothing is going to be approved and happen until we see that official platting, the official engineering study, and the official third-party engineering study, and we're all satisfied with that. This is just green lighting and a preliminary platting. There's a whole lot of stuff that has to happen between here and there, and that is something that we're going to have to be satisfied with, is that engineering study that we're going to get before anything is done on that property.
I understand. What really baffles me is that of all the places you want to build in Smithfield, why you want to build right here and funnel the flow of water through the existing detention pond? We didn't give the easement for that.
He did it when he bought the land. He didn't know the detention pond was going to be parked right next door to him. He just happens to be there, and I think he's trying to make the best of the situation that he's in. If he was somewhere else in town, he would have to just dig a drainage pipe and connect it into the drainage system anyway. He just happens to be right behind the detention pond.
Well, I understand he just happens to be there, but he also sold the land to the city for the detention pond. We gave our land.
Yeah, and that easement was absolutely necessary to get the water from 7th to the pond, and we thank you for that. But the pond was also a $1.6 million price tag. It benefited 255 acres, a lot more than just the 7th Street people. So we're very thankful to be able to have Mr. McMahon sell us that property at the rate, and to have FEMA give us the funds to get it done. 4 years is a long time. But y'all been waiting 30.
This is an enlargement to the existing, it's an addition, whatever you want to call it. This isn't what was originally committed to. This is whatever you want to call the retention pond. The water's going to flow through the detention pond. And that's not what we were told this was about. I'm sorry, but I'm speaking frankly.
Right, we get it, and the water's gonna make it to the detention pond. No matter if he was across the street or right where it is, the water's still gonna go there when it goes into the drainage system. He just happens to be right there. And
But again, I will reiterate that by law, you cannot adversely impact your neighbors with creating floods. The post-development flow has to be equal to or better than the pre-development flow. And again, nothing's going to get approved unless I can have that validated by a third party. And whether that requires 2 on-site lots or whether it requires enlarging the existing pond, the net effect is that you can't dump water on other folks. You got to own your water, as you say, Mitch.
all right, thank you, Mr. Wallace and Mr. Jameson. I think you answered Kathy's question. Council members, do you have any more questions for Tim, Robert, or Mr. McMahon?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do. I would just like to say that we need to keep in mind that what's before us tonight is approving the zoning changes and the replat of the property, which is really what Mr. McMahon needs to proceed with doing a detailed engineering study. As Robert pointed out, once we have that in hand, our due diligence is really to evaluate the detailed plan and the building restrictions he puts on the lots and verify that their estimates of impervious cover are reasonable in terms of the amount, the acre feet that they're estimating. And as Robert pointed out, we'll have an outside firm to do this. We need housing. I'm sympathetic to the concerns of the 7th Street people, and I would certainly never approve any plan that puts any Smithfield citizens at additional risk. But I think we need to allow Mr. McMahon to move forward with a detailed plan so that we have facts. We're not just speculating as to what the effect would be. And if we get our outside engineer to look at that, in my mind, that's the point at which we do our due diligence and decide to move forward or not.
I would like to add something. And thank you, Mr. Mann, for coming to Smithfield and creating more housing to bring more people to Smithfield. I look forward to meeting you. I don't know how we haven't met, but I would like to reiterate that I feel you should own your own water. I feel that you are asking for variances to make these lots smaller, that there's going to be a bigger runoff. I feel you need to engineer your own detention pond, retention pond, whatever works in this subdivision, but I feel you need to own your own water. But I agree with the subdivision. I agree with the variances. I just think the engineering firm needs to go forward and own the water on your subdivision. That's all.
Well, and thank you for your comment, but I've not tried to make, the variances don't make the lots any smaller. They just change the setbacks slightly. The lots are
did setbacks for a reason, and you're changing all the setbacks to make a bigger building area. I just feel that all needs to be taken in consideration in the layout with the engineer for the water runoff to your own pond, not tying into the city pond.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All lots existing and in the future within that 255 acres tie into the detention pond in Smithfield. All of them. All right, council, do you have any more questions, discussion, or comments, or Tim or Mr. McMahon or Robert? Do you have anything else you wanted to add? No. Okay, I'll entertain a motion then.
Mayor, I move that we approve a preliminary plat that includes variances and zone changes for A46 Lomas L acres 2.505, owner 230 Properties LLC, McMahon Edition, lot 7, 0.1602 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 6, 0.1610 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 5, 0.1602 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 4, 0.1645 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 3, 0.1561 acres, McMahon Edition, lot 2, 0.3935, owner George H. McMahon.
I second.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the preliminary plat that includes variance and zone changes for A46 Lomas L acres 2.505, 230, lot 7654332, owner George 1, owner George McMahon. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, we're looking forward to seeing the engineering studies, the hydraulic studies, and everything else, Mr. McMahon and Tim. I appreciate you both being here, and I also appreciate the civic participation by the citizens on 7th Street. I hope that we all work together to make this a beneficial project for the entire area. I know that, John, you will definitely hold me accountable, and I know that Mr. Jameson, I know you'll be involved too. Please know that we are always available, and we encourage citizen input and activity when it comes to everything that has to do with the city. So please stay involved as this process goes through. But
Thanks,
as far as,
Mayor Saunders, to that point, let me reiterate that as soon as I get something formal from BEFCO regarding the drainage analysis, I will share that. And then in turn, once the development gets further along with respect to the design of all facets of the development, that's going to go to a third party who will review BEFCO's work to include the drainage analysis, setbacks, everything that he's wanting to do. We have a very good organization that helps us with that now, and you'll have that data.
Can I ask who the third party is?
Certainly, it's PRD Land Development out of Pearland.
They're good people.
There you go. Thank you, sir.
all right,
I was going to suggest Tatum or Pickett and Killam and Austin, but that'll work.
Awesome.
thank you, Mr. Wallace and Robert. All right, next up, number 10, discussion action on a revision of resolution number 2020-01-448 of the city of Smithfield, Texas, calling the municipal general election, changing the date from the 2nd of May 2020 to the 3rd day of November 2020. This resolution is necessary to extend the number of days and polling locations for the November 3rd, 2020 general election of local, state, and federal officials. Council, you've had in your packet an explanation of what exactly is going on. It's basically letting people vote for more days for our municipal election, and we need to approve it officially to make it happen. I'll entertain a motion. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve a revision to the resolution number 2020-01-448 of the city of Smithfield, Texas, calling a municipal general election, changing the date from the 2nd of May 2020 to the 3rd day of November 2020.
All right, is there a second?
I second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the resolution number 2020-01-448 of the city of Smithfield, Texas, calling a municipal general election, changing the date from the 2nd of May 2020 to the 3rd day of November 2020. All in favor, say aye or raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, discussion action on the placement of a historical marker. Sorry, I forgot to turn on my video. Discussion action on the placement of a historical marker at 606 Gresham Street on the main house. There has been an application for a Smithfield historic marker for their home at 606 Gresham, the old Mazzola house, which was part of the Busher estate. The HPD SAC met on July 15th and unanimously approved this recommendation. And I don't know if Jill Strube or Carol Snyder would like to add anything.
Excuse me, Mayor. Jennifer, please take over the screen and share what the agenda item. Thank you.
This is April Daniels. I'm here to speak on behalf of the HBDS committee. Carol Snyder could not be here this evening.
All right.
The item that you see before you, 606 Gresham Street, has two structures on it, one known as the Mazzola House and the other known as the Carriage House. The owners, Samantha and Stan Gertis, have requested historical marker designations on both properties. The historical, or both structures, the Historic Preservation and Design Standards Committee met. There is a requirement of 11 different things. There are 11 things that that can be met in order to achieve the historic marker designation. Of those 11, the Mazzola House met 8 of them, and the Carriage House met 4 of them. Having reviewed all of the documents that were provided, the committee voted unanimously to recommend the historic marker designations for both structures.
April, I know that whenever we decided to approve the historical marker designations for the city of Smithfield, just like the other ones you brought before us, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is another unique home in the city of Smithfield, and I'm happy that people are wanting to preserve the history of where it came from with the Mazzola House from the Busher Estate. Council, do you have any other questions for Ms. Daniels? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Somebody needs to get checked for COVID.
Mayor, I think they did an amazing job of documenting this. It was very interesting to read. And I move that we approve the placement of a historic marker at 606 Gresham Street on the main house.
And I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the placement of a historical marker at 606 Gresham Street on the Carriage House. And a historical marker at 606 Gresham Street on the main house. All in favor, say aye or raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. It looks like this next item, number 12, is the same address, but it is the Carriage House in the back of the property. And this one was also unanimously approved. And Ms. Daniels, would you like to add anything there, even though you kind of mentioned it earlier?
Yeah, I already went through both properties, sorry.
That's right. Okay, council, I'll entertain a motion for this one.
Mayor, I move to approve the action on the placement of a historical marker at 606 Gresham Street on the Carriage House in the back of the property.
For a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the placement of a historical marker at 606 Gresham Street on the Carriage House in the back of the property. All in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
All any opposed? Motion carried. All right, next up, number 13. Discussion and action on a certificate of appropriateness for CLEQ LLC owner Aaron Early at 304-306 Main Street. This certificate of appropriateness was applied for to allow the installation of light fixtures on the outside of this 304-306 Main. And Ms. Daniels, would you like to add anything?
Sure. At 304 and 306 Main, if you're not aware of where that is, it's right next to what a lot of people call the old movie theater, right next to the drive-through for First National Bank. These are two different, it's the same, the properties are right next to each other, but they have two different addresses, 304 and 306, owned by Erin Early with her company CLEQ LLC. She has asked for a certificate of appropriateness on the colors. The paint colors were accepted administratively and approved based on paint swatches that were adopted by the Historic Preservation and Design Standards Committee. The lighting we're recommending approval of the lighting. We've reviewed it, we've accepted it as historically accurate, and we would recommend that her lighting be approved for those two properties.
Mayor, I move that we approve the action on awarding, oh wait, sorry. Let's read the next one. Mayor, I move that we approve the action on a certificate of appropriateness for CLEQ LLC owner Aaron Early at 304-306 Main Street for her light fixtures.
I'll second.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the certificate of appropriateness for CLEQ LLC owner Aaron Early at 304, 306 Main Street. All in favor, say aye or raise your right hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion carries. Next up, discussion action on awarding the engineering services contract for the GLO Cdbg MIT grant. As you know, we sent out our RFQ through the Austin American Statesman to give us a budget and scope of work. And I'm sure City Manager Campbell would like to fill us in on this.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. What is being shown on the screen right now? Jennifer, you have the screen or do I have the screen?
Robert, we're seeing the tabulation right now. Jennifer's showing that.
Okay, it still says that I'm sharing, so I'm not seeing what you're seeing, but let me go through this. This is for the Community Block Development Grant mitigation funds for 2015, 16, and Hurricane Harvey. A lot of money, like 2.73 billion with a B dollars that are at stake. These are competitive grants, and with each grant, each application, we need an engineering firm to design whatever drainage is appropriate. We did a study, if you remember, about 2.5 years ago with the Texas Water Development Board that identified 5 regional drainage projects at a price tag of about $43 million. Well, thanks to 2015, 16, and Harvey, they released the funds to be able to pay for some of these projects. The minimum cost of the project that qualifies is $3 million to $10 million. So it's right up our alley, so to speak. Going back to the RFQ, we did award the grant management contract to Langford Community Management Services out of Austin last month. We had to table the engineering RFQ request for qualifications because it was just that close. You have a copy of the tabulation. I think it's on the screen. I'm going blind here. And long story short, BEFCO received the highest scores based upon a 4-member evaluation team and recommend that they be selected or awarded the contract for engineering for the CBDG MIT grant.
Robert, can I ask a question? BEFCO, it says that they didn't provide a required contract provision compared to the Doucette and Associates had everything on there. Like it looks like some people didn't provide some stuff. They were down by what, 1.5 points.
Yeah,
Is there a difference in what that required contract provisions is and why BEFCO wouldn't have that and why we would choose BEFCO over the Doucette just based off of the score if they didn't turn in everything they're supposed to?
Yeah, correct. The infraction for BEFCO was minor in that you needed to provide language that said you would follow the appropriate contract documentation as provided by GLO. Like FEMA, you have all the paperwork and strings attached to FEMA. GLO is 5 times worse. Okay, so you had to address in the RFQ that you understand that there's a contract provision that has to be followed, and they did not give that acknowledgement. Now, Doucette did. However, Doucette was a little shy on the GLO experience and drainage overall. So the team, again, if you look at the scores, each one, we did this independently. BEFCO came out on top. Strand and Associates, a very, very, very close second. A lot of GLO experience, a lot of drainage experience, but they too didn't provide a couple of the contract provision documents that were required. So that's the reason for the scores the way they are. Anyone else on the team who scored that would like to give any other input? Scotty, Jennifer, Jack?
Well, you know, I don't get involved in the scoring very much. When I went over the 3 packets ad nauseum, and these projects are massive. I mean, they're huge, and we're lucky that we have BEFCO, Strand, and Doucette to be in such high quality people and corporations here that want to work on this project. We really can't pick a wrong engineer for this study. For this project, it was a big deal and it was complicated. As you can see, we had to break it down to fractions of a point here. And that's how close it was. And with that being said, we work a lot with CEFCO, but this is a massive project. It's one that's going to take a long time. It's one that's going to really impact Smithfield for, heck, my kids' children's lifetime. And
Have we ever worked with that before in the past?
No, ma'am.
Well, Scott, are you there?
Scotty shows that he's still there.
no, I'm still here. Sorry, I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old do a drive-by through here, so I had to do some wrangling for a second. But did you ask me something, or sorry?
Well, you just went away, and I just was wondering if I can.
Oh yeah, no, you interrupted me, so I figured you were done listening to what I had to say, so I just gave up on everything.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I'll entertain a motion. We've had these packets, and if y'all are ready, I am too.
Here, I move that we approve the awarding of the engineering services contract for the GLO Cdbg MIT grant to Bevco Engineering out of LaGrange.
I'll second.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the awarding of the engineering services contract for the GLO Cdbg MIT grant to Bevco Engineering. All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 All right, thank you very much. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. 1 second. All right, at this time, we'll move to number 15. Discussion and action on the proposal to set the ad valorem tax rate at September 14, 2020 council meeting. This is one of those housekeeping procedures that we have to do to notify everybody that we are planning on doing something with the ad valorem tax rate. And Robert, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There was an error in the note to you guys, and I'll go over that in a moment. The proposed ad valorem tax rate that you will be voting on in the September meeting is 0.54906 cents per $100 valuation. That's a decrease of almost 2 cents from the current tax rate of 0.56902. I had told you that the effective rate was in your text was 0.52752. It's actually 0.54. I'm sorry, I was off by 2. I made a typo. So the key takeaway here is that the proposed tax rate is 2 cents lower than it was last year. You will be voting on that tax rate at the September meeting. Any questions?
I don't think so. Right now, we're basically just letting the public know that we're going to be voting on this, and we're not actually setting anything right now. So
and here's what happened when your appraised values go up, your effective rate goes down, and that's what the difference is between last year and this year was, like I said, almost 2 cents. So the rollback rate is 0.54906, and that's what we're going to be talking about at the September meeting. At that rate, the rollback rate, or what's now called the voter approved tax rate, it'll still bring in $130,000 of revenue to the city because our values went up about like 15 million overall.
I'd like to add that we have posted this worksheet and rate on our website if anybody wants to go back later and look at it.
all right, thank you, Jennifer and Robert. If council would like to, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve a proposal to set the ad valorem tax rate at September 14th, 2020 council meeting.
Second.
A second.
Motion has been made and seconded to set the ad valorem tax rate at the September 14th, 2020 council meeting. All in favor, say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next up, number 16.
Oh, can I pause for a second? I didn't see any hands up, and I know Cynthia needs this vote for her. I just want to make sure that we're all,
Yeah, they all voted for,
okay, I just couldn't see it. Thank you.
no problem. Next up, discussion action on the personnel manual, section 9.09, city holiday schedule, to add Cinco de Mayo and Juneteenth. And I have a note on here that says Councilmember Gordon will be kicking off the discussion for this item.
Well, thank you very much. And this will be short in the interest of time. This is something that I noticed was happening around the state and around the country. And I thought that, as has been the case in the past with some of the events and things that we've done, we should take a leadership position. And I think that's pretty important. So with that in mind, the idea of putting these two things together is the fact that it would show that Smithville is a diverse community, and it acknowledges and recognizes diversity as well as inclusiveness. And this is very important because there are people who examine us from the outside. That's one point. The second point, of course, is more practical, and that is that, well, who wouldn't want 2 days off? Now, our workers, from my perspective, probably don't get the money that I would like to see them get, but then we have constraints. We have budget constraints, and we're going to see that coming up in the future. But one of the things that we can do that is another resource is give them time. So that's what I'm proposing, is that we give them time. And this accomplishes the two things that I just mentioned. So I would really appreciate all council members considering this as we go forward, and recognizing that Smithville is a unique town and we want to boast about it. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I have a couple of questions, and this can either go to you or Robert. The employees currently have 13 paid holidays and 3 personal days. Is there anything that would stop a council member, a employee, from taking Juneteenth off or Columbus Day or anything else, Cinco de Mayo, anything else off by using any of their 3 personal days? Could they use one of those for it? And
Certainly.
also, if we were going to add 2 more holidays, would that take away 2 of the personal days, or would they have a total of 18 days off every year?
Is that to Robert or me? My vision is that that would be additional days, and personal days would stand. Robert?
Robert, have you heard anything from any of the employees asking for Juneteenth or Cinco de Mayo off? Or is there any discussion of this within the employees?
I have not. It's kind of, you're seeing this happen across the nation, and I think Councilmember Gordon is trying to get ahead of it. And let's be on the other side of this as opposed to the backside. Now, yeah, the employees can take off with their supervisor's permission any day. That's why they have 3 personal days. I think this is something more formal that Councilmember Gordon wanted to implement or institute.
Right. And another perspective is that it acts in some sense as a gift to our employees. That was the second item that I mentioned, that in many cases, we are constrained in terms of giving them raises, but we do have time available, I would think. The con would be, I don't know to what extent it would impact the productivity of our employees, but I don't think it would be adverse.
Okay, let's talk about this for a second. What if instead of giving them Cinco de Mayo off or Juneteenth off, something that we specifically state, what if we gave them 1 more personal day that they could take whenever they want, including those, as opposed to 2 extra days off that we dictate? What if we gave them 1 more that they could pick?
That's doable. Or we could give them 2 more, and that would also be doable, right?
Right, but they would be on specific days.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's for us to decide.
I think it was, I don't mean to be speaking for.
One more.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sharon.
idea of one more personal day. That way they can choose. But I love the thought, Bill.
Okay, I know you do.
And not to speak for Bill, but I think what we talked about in our discussions was to add a little more cultural diversity to the number of days and type of days that you give.
Right, so that they would not be generic, in fact.
It's kind of my reaction to it is I think it's a gesture toward recognizing that we are a diverse community. And as Bill and Robert both pointed out, this is something that people are doing across the country. And this is an opportunity for us to take a leadership position in it in our area.
Yes.
And just to reinforce what Councilmember Gordon said, the starting pay is $12 for labor in Smithville. And we've been trying to work that up for years. Go ahead.
So my thought process is, and Bill, I appreciate you bringing this up. I might have missed it. Obviously, there's a lot going on right now about the Cinco de Mayo. I don't quite remember that being a trend across the United States. So I would feel more comfortable making maybe that more of a personal day if we had to have if we decided to move forward with that. But I do like the diversity that having Juneteenth would come in. In all the jobs that I've worked with and all the jobs that I've had across the years, I've never had Cinco de Mayo even come across as a date that I would think to even have off. But in regards to things that have been happening, I agree that Juneteenth would be showing that we're diversifying and giving that. And I do know multiple people across the country that have had that become a holiday at their job.
Right. Well, what I was trying to say was that these are days of celebration. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I've gone to a few Cinco de Mayo events around the country, and it's a nice celebration.
Hey, I mean, I had a party on Cinco de Mayo when I got, on our voting day 2 years ago, but I agree. I'm one for a party.
So we just recognize
margaritas and tacos, but
right. And this is something I want. This is something I want people. Basically, I'd like for people to recognize and keep in mind that we have a diversity of views and communities, and we want to attach a label to it rather than having it be generic. I mean, I would hate to think that all of our holidays, for instance, we could have 13 days and they were all simply called personal holidays. That would bother me greatly, especially Christmas.
Well, I see where you're coming from, Bill. I'm kind of stuck on the Cinco de Mayo. That's a cultural celebration more than an actual national holiday, while Juneteenth is actually a national event. Cinco de Mayo is where the Mexican army defeated the French Empire in the Battle of Puebla. That really has nothing to do with America per se. I also know that if we do give personal days instead of actually dictating what day you have to take, it does make it harder when people want to take off. And honestly, for me, the day after Cinco de Mayo would probably be better to have off than actually Cinco de Mayo.
Okay. Well, I would just hate to
kill ya.
I hate to restrict it only to Juneteenth, but are you suggesting that as a possibility to modify the proposed section?
I would be I don't get to vote either way, but I would much rather see it be just Juneteenth as opposed to both of them. And if the day after Cinco de Mayo would be necessary, then they can use one of the 3 personal days for that. But that's just my 2 cents on it.
Okay. So one possibility is I could, the discussion and action would be about Juneteenth solely, if I'm hearing everybody correctly. And a motion could be made on that basis.
Right.
Is that what am I hearing that correctly?
Sure, you can make a motion for Juneteenth only, or Cinco de Mayo only, or both, or personal days, or whatever you want to do.
That's right, because you don't get to vote. Well, I'm not the only one who can make the motion, by the way. There are a number of us. It was just a proposal I made. I'm not required to necessarily make the motion. Is that correct, Jennifer?
That's correct. You do not have to make any motion on this.
Right. So it can be made with modification or it can be made as it stands. So, and in fact, I will defer making the motion. I'll state that.
I will make a motion that we modify the Personnel Manual, Section 9.09, City Holiday Schedule to add Juneteenth as an additional employee holiday.
I second.
All right. Is there any further discussion on that?
None from me.
A motion has been made and seconded to add a new to the Personnel Manual, Section 9.09, City Holiday Schedule to add Juneteenth as an additional day off to the already approved 13 paid holidays. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. If anybody else wanted to make a motion on this, there can be another one for something else if you like. But if not, I'm going to go to the next one.
Like Arbor Day or something? What are you talking
So
about?
I'm saying
They
if,
go to Maya.
I'm saying if somebody wanted to make an independent motion for Cinco de Mayo or an independent motion for another personal day,
Cinco de Mayo, May 6th.
the day after Cinco de Mayo, yeah, there's that too.
That's a good one, Cass.
I mean, we're here. It's on the agenda. You can make anything you want. So, all right, hearing none, I'm going to move on to the next one. Next item, number 17.
Yes.
Discussion and action on the approval of the financial report. Cynthia, it's your time to shine.
Oh, Cynthia.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Y'all should have before you the July financial report. As you can see, the revenues are at 86% of our $12 million budget. Overall, we still are to the good at this point. General fund looks really good. Of course, utility is still a little behind due to some of the fees and things that we waived, but with the hot months and that, we should hopefully catch up a little bit here. I don't know if y'all have any questions or concerns about anything.
I have one. Go ahead, Cassie. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Cassie.
Thanks. I just actually wanted to kind of touch base on what you just said. I know that we've waived fees and I agree with waiving fees, and I appreciate you guys making the decision to do that to help our citizens. I just wanted to kind of see on a standpoint with us getting towards the end of our fiscal year, how are we looking on, obviously I see the 86%, but how are we looking to either, are we going to, how far, oh goodness, let me stop. How far short are we going to fall with our numbers because of those fees waived? Do we have an idea kind of yet?
Well, I mean, if you look, because it's going to hit the general fund looks really good. It's holding its own. It's the utility, and it.
Correct.
I mean, overall, you can see we're under by 348,000 overall. I mean, we've added back fees and that now. You know, we lost. I think it came out to around 50-60,000 when we did the fees and stuff.
There we go. So about 50-60 was the number.
Yeah, between the credit card fees and some of that, and so hopefully that'll all, you know, we've added it back now. So this month we will start adding it back. So we're going to be short that. It just depends on where all the other expenses kind of fall. I'm hoping that, you know, we still got two of our hottest months. You know, the revenue increase from the prior month, you know, with utility bills and all of that. So hopefully we'll get really close to breaking even.
Yeah, right now we are 51,000 revenue over expenditures. There are some $300,000 of grant reimbursement monies that are owed us that we haven't received. We're applying for some CARES funding, or Jill's working on this to the tune of about $65,000 to actually give folks who have gotten behind a break. It takes it off their bill and it gets us paid. So hopefully it'll be a wash if we can get the CARES funding for that.
Yeah. So it's just kind of, hopefully it'll all,
Well, thanks for
People
everything
are,
you guys have been
people are
doing.
using water. They're using a lot of water right now. I know I think 63,000.
I'm using so much more water than I ever used. Yeah, I've laundry.
yeah. And so we got we still have 2 months of that. So hopefully that will help make up for some of that, difference. So.
Yeah,
Well,
fuel cost is pretty stable. It's still 11 and 12 cents per kilowatt hour. And we only charge it for what you use.
Well, I would like to congratulate you guys on doing as good a job as you've done through the impact of this virus. And I think the breaks that have been given to citizens was a good, necessary thing. It's depleted our reserves to some extent on the utility side, but I think we've done the right thing. And hopefully we'll recover soon.
well, Mayor, I approve, or, sorry, I actually did just remember, Bill, you had something to say. I cut somebody off again today. Apparently that's my, agenda.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, I wanted to make that motion.
Oh, you
How
do
about that? I move that we approve the financial report as presented.
I second.
Thanks, Cassie.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded to approve the financial report as presented. All in favor, say aye or raise your right hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. It's approved. Next up, before we adjourn, I had the great honor and privilege of speaking at the convocation today for all the teachers heading back to school. And I let them know that the city of Smithfield and the council members and city manager were 100% behind them and anything that they might need from the city. And we want to definitely wish them the safest possible school experience that they can have. And, I know there's a lot of people that are going to be struggling with decisions this year for what to do with school, myself included, with my daughter that's supposed to start kindergarten. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those families, and the children, and the people that have to go to work, and the people that can stay home. And there's really no wrong decision when you decide to keep your kid home or send them to school. You got to do what's best for you. We're all going to have to get through this together. It's definitely going to be a turbulent time coming up. We really don't know what the future holds. I know that myself and Robert and Superintendent Burns have been meeting regularly. We've also been meeting with the health authority regularly, and we're keeping up with what's going on COVID related. And I encourage any of the citizens or council members to stay involved in those numbers and question us about them and hold us accountable with getting you the information that you need. But we do want to wish the best to the students of Smithfield ISD. We do have that Tiger Pride in the city of Smithfield. Things are going to be a little bit different this year, but the goals are all still the same: to educate our young people and give them a safe learning environment. And with that, council members, do you have anything else that you would like to add, or Robert, before we go?
Let me step in, please.
Yes.
I'd like to congratulate you and Robert for the extra time that you guys put in. And I've watched you, and I'm sure other council members and citizens have also. And that's in addition to the high power that you guys put forth in your ordinary duties. So during these special times, we recognize what you guys have done. And thank you very much. I saw Christine Files in town just the other day, and I'm sure she wasn't just here to go to one of our places to eat, although that's where I saw her. She looked pretty tired. So thank you guys.
Right, and you do mention Christine. Right now, there is a fire going on right behind the state park. It is about 30 acres. It's 50% contained. And that's something that's going to be going on all night into tomorrow. We have heavy fuel all over the place with these hot temperatures. It's going to be hot for the foreseeable future. Things are going to keep getting drier. So please be careful if you're shredding. There is a burn ban. Please do not burn. And just be vigilant of yourself and your neighbors when it comes to making those decisions when dealing with fire, because it can get out of hand very quickly. And we definitely want to say thank you to our volunteer fire department who work tirelessly with everything that they do for our city and surrounding communities. And thank you, Councilman Gordon, for your nice words. It is a lot of meetings, a lot more than we thought we'd be involved with. What is it, 170 days or so now, Robert, that we've met every morning to talk about COVID?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So I mean, it's nonstop. 170 days since we declared our COVID disaster, and we have at least that many more to go, I would think. So we just all need to stay as united as we possibly can and keep making the decisions that are going to have the impact to keep the citizens safe.
Yeah, Scott, Mayor Saunders, I have a couple of things I want to announce.
Sure.
The mandatory mask ordinance that the council put into effect last month expires on the 28th. We will be holding a special call meeting before one of the workshops to probably extend that ordinance going forward, as I don't see any relief from the governor at this point of relaxing that requirement through, his executive order GA 29. So expect that on the 26th. There is a schedule of budget workshops that's been published and public hearings. If you can't make one of those meetings, please let us know. The major announcement that I have tonight is that on Monday, the 15th of August, the 4th Avenue Bridge will be opened up at 9 a.m. This is a phenomenal project. If you think about this, bridge was closed on the what?
What day will it be open?
17th, next Monday week, I'm sorry, Monday week, August 17th at 9 a.m. This bridge was closed on the 20th of November. And in 9 months, TxDOT, we were able to find the funding, design the bridge, tear the old bridge down, acquire easements, relocate utilities, hire a contractor, Chasco, and get the bridge built. That's unbelievable.
Wow.
So kudos to TxDOT, 9 months.
Having a baby.
What? Who's having a baby?
We are the bridge.
That's how stuff gets started.
That's how rumors get started.
There will not be a ribbon cutting. It's a virtual ribbon cutting because of COVID-19. The TxDOT is going to publish a press release at 9 a.m. and there'll be some videos, but I'm still thinking we may have some folks that want to cross that bridge officially. So we may figure something out coming down the hill.
We need to have a parade.
Have what? Track meet.
A parade. Like one of the little parades. People can drive across it.
In their car. Okay, I'll work on that.
Okay, thank you. I'll work on that.
Oh, I like it. Go ahead. It's on you. Thank you.
Oh, I will.
Councilman Forrester.
Oh,
Do I have a second? A motion has been made that Councilmember Forrester does the parade.
No, I have to approve parades, and I'm not approving any parades right now.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you. But the 17th is when it opens. And the bridge has only been blocked 76 times by Union Pacific. Sorry.
Speaking of Union Pacific, do you want to make the announcement about the email you got from Union Pacific?
Certainly. The Union Pacific has approved our designs for the new chamber office, visitor center, and railroad museum. So that will be a big project that we will kick off in the new budget year. Now we got to actually get some building plans drawn up. We have the conceptual designs done, and then they've been approved by Union Pacific, which is awesome. So April, get your checkbook out.
All right. Anything else?
Don't think so.
Council, as always, we appreciate you being involved and showing up to these meetings. As we all are volunteers, I know that your heart has to be behind it to do some of the things that we do. And I know that you all have the biggest ones out there. And from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate this team that we have and the things that we've gotten through. We never imagined some of the stuff we've had to deal with, but we got a good team that we have together, and I'm real happy that, you know, to be part of it. That being said, we'll see
I'll
you
second
next-
that.
All right, we'll see you at our workshop coming up, and until then, everyone be safe, mask up, and wait, somebody said something?
I said bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.
We're adjourned.
Thank y'all.